I will admit that when I went with the 6.5 gallon model, I vastly underestimated how huge this is. A point of use water heater of this size is more designed for adding a water heater to a shed or utility sink, more so than under a house sink, just due to its large size and volume. And that's exactly the application that I'll be using it for. I added a water line and drain to my shed with my utility sink to fit this wonderful little beast in there for hot water. As we get the water heater unboxed, it comes with everything needed for the tank itself, including the pressure relief valve with thread sealer already on it, the mounting bracket for attaching it to a wall, and the anchors necessary for that. You will have to source your own half-inch hoses, but those are easily obtained from hardware stores. For my use case, I'm going to have this thing sitting on the floor, as where I'm putting it, I don't actually have space for it above the sink due to a window being there. However, if you are going to be mounting it to a wall, the process is incredibly simple. The instructions for the tank say to use a piece of plywood going between two studs, which would be perfectly fine if you had one of the smaller tanks. However, the 6.5 gallon tank can weigh around 80 pounds. So I personally recommend going with a 2x4 mounted between studs to be extra safe. All I'm doing here is simply mounting a 2x4 level across two studs with 4 3-inch screws before attaching the mounting bracket with the provided lag bolts from Thermomate. At the very least, you want to ensure that at least one lag bolt is going into either a stud or the 2x4, and the other hole could go into drywall with the provided expansion bolt and be safe. Once the mount is on the wall, simply lift up the heater and plop it onto the mount. Make sure you're doing this before you fill it with water. The heater has two holes in the back that the top of the mount slides into and creates a very secure fit that holds the tank beautifully. When it comes to hooking up the heater to an existing cold water line, simply attach a 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch water line from the tank to the water valve. Make sure to wrap the cold water inlet on the tank with Teflon tape, at least 3 wraps around the threads, and then thread on the 1/2 inch fitting. The cold line is the blue color threaded nipple here. Then take the 3/8" side and attach it to one side of your cold water outlet. If your water line is a single outlet, cold water only line, you can easily adapt it over to a double outlet as shown here. In my case, I had to adapt from PVC to PEX to even install an outlet. But if you have an existing shutoff or just a threaded line, you'd simply have to turn off your water to the house at your meter, remove the old water outlet, and swap it out with a 1/2" shark bite to double 3/8 outlet. If you have a PVC to 3/8 outlet, you'd be cutting the PVC and adapting over to a PEX fitting like I did here. And yes, I'm aware that my pipe is leaking. My main shutoff doesn't actually fully shut off. I really need to get the water company to fix that sometime. With the quick water recap over, let's go ahead and tighten down both the hot and cold water lines using a convenient plumbing tool to make sure that neither side will leak. Before filling the tank, we want to go ahead and install the pressure relief valve, which is the yellow port. Since the valve comes pre-wrapped with Teflon, there's no need to add more. Simply thread it in and get it nice and tight. Then, add your pressure relief valve pipe that will go down to either a water pan, floor drain, cup, or anything that will catch the water. Code does require that the water coming out of a pressure relief line to be visible, as excess water coming out of a pressure relief line is an indicator of an issue that needs to be fixed. With all of the plumbing connected, go ahead and turn the water on and let it fill the tank, which takes about a minute. While that's filling up, let's go through the process of adding an electrical outlet for where this will be connected. We're going to speed through this here in a minute or so per segment. Simply attach a box to the wall with a new work box if you have open studs like I do, or an old work box if you're cutting into drywall. Add a wire into the box. 14 gauge in this case is fine and sufficient for the lower wattage heater in these tanks. Attach the black wire to the gold terminal, the white wire to the silver terminal, and the bare copper to the green terminal. With the power turned off at the breaker, go ahead and remove an outlet close to where you want to add your new outlet. Loosen up the gold and black terminals with existing wires. Add in your black wire to the gold terminal either by looping it around, backstabbing it, adding a Wago block, or wire nutting it in, and do the same with the white wire to the silver terminals. And then the bare copper goes to the green terminal. Once everything is wired in, go ahead and turn the breaker back on. With the breaker on, you can go ahead and plug in the water heater, and you should see its little orange light to power up for you. Heating up from cold water to a full tank of hot water takes about 15 minutes for the first time. Once it's fully heated up, we can easily test the water temperatures. With cold water, it appears to be around 82 degrees. And when we turn the hot water on, we can see practically instantly that we get 130-degree water from the tap. And that's all for today's video, a nice little remix of installing a point-of-use water heater. Next time, we'll go over installing a full